decides that that's not what you want to do.
Guys, what page?
Okay, we are on Daf He Amud Aleph 5A4. If you're following the art scroll, yeah? Ready to go? Let us begin. So up until this point, if you remember, what did we learn? We learned an idea from Rava. Rava taught us a very fascinating idea, and we tried to figure out what the chidush was in Rava's words, and the Gemara then explained to us what Rava was actually teaching. So let's just review. We'll go back one page. If you want to go back, it's in the art scroll, it's 5A3. Okay, let's see his statement again, without the question, just the statement itself. Rava says, Ba'u shnayim ve'amru, two people come along and say, Bechad b'Shabbata. What day did they come to court on? Anyone remember? Tuesday. They come to court on Tuesday. They say, Bechad b'Shabbata, this past Sunday, Harag ploni et hanefesh. This guy, right, killed somebody. You see, it's very dangerous Sunday morning not to be in Gemara class. You might get killed. On Sunday morning, this guy killed somebody. Two other people came along and they said that actually you guys, you're saying that Sunday morning this person was a murderer and he killed this person, and they said, Imanu ayitem echad b'Shabbat, you with us. But actually, when did he kill? On Monday. Monday the guy killed, okay? So we said, what was the halakha in that case? And not only in that case, we even added a case. Velod, and not only that, ela afilu amru erev Shabbat, harag ploni et hanefesh, even if they said, not Sunday the guy killed. They say Friday the guy killed. Not Monday, but Friday. So in other words, remember, we have group number one of testimony walks in and says on Tuesday, Sunday morning the guy killed somebody, all right? Come along the people and say, no, he did not kill on Sunday. He killed on Monday. That means that on Sunday, when you said he killed, he was not a murderer. So you were killing somebody, did nothing. At least your testimony was killing someone, did nothing. Monday only he did this act of murder, okay? Says the Gemara. And not only that, Rava continues, and even if they said, he didn't kill on Monday, he killed on Friday.
The Friday before.
The Friday before, which means that when you said that he killed on Sunday, he was already a murderer. Okay? What's the halakha? Still in that case, neheragin. You kill him. Why?
Because the testimony is on Tuesday.
Because the testimony is on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, what did they kill? This guy that they killed, he was not, without them, he was not going to die he was not going to be ruled on this morning to be killed, okay, number one, so they were going to bring about his execution. And not only if it happened on Monday do we say that we're going to kill him, because they were killing someone who was not going to be killed without them, but even if on Friday the story happened, so the guy was a murderer, he deserves to die. But even if he deserves to die, you're the one that's actually executing him, but he's dying by your hand, and unjustly so. So therefore, that neheragin. That's what he says. In the time that they said the testimony, Gavra, the person, lav bar ketalahu. He's not someone who is a dead man walking. He might have committed the crime, but until they rule on him that he's going to get the death penalty, the guy is still a free man, or at least he's not a dead man, okay? You made him a dead man with a false testimony, and therefore, neheragin, they're killed. Continues Rava, now turn the page to 5A4, because Gemara asked the question, but then Rava continues. Sefa, he came to say the end. What does he say? You see it over there, 5A4? It's in the first column there, or if you're following in the Gemara, on the Gemara side, it's about 10 lines from the bottom. Ba'u shnayim ve'amiru. Two people came and they said, Bechad b'Shabbata nigmar dino shel peloni. Yeah? On Sunday, the judgment against this person was finished. They're not testifying about the murder. They're testifying about the psak din, about the ruling in court, about the gavel coming down. So they said, on Sunday, the guy had the gavel come down on him. Two people come along and say, on Sunday, you with us. When did the ruling come down? On Friday. What does that mean? That when they testified on Tuesday, that Sunday morning the guy was he gets a death penalty. He was already a death penalty guy, because on Friday they death penaltied him. Okay, what did you kill in that case? And not only that, and even if they said on Monday, so when I said on Sunday that the gavel came down and he's a dead guy, was he a dead guy yet? No, Monday's a dead guy. But he's a dead guy now. On Tuesday, I walked into Beit Din. No matter when we say the crime was, did the gavel come down before I tried to kill him? Yes.
Does it matter if he knew?
Does it matter who knew?
If he knew about the ruling?
No. No, why? Because the idea is you kill the person who's already dead. Even if you would kill him yourself with your hands.
It's status.
Right?
Status thing.
En elu ne'eragin. They would not be murdered. Debaida kabesadi gavra bar ketalahu. At that point, he would be someone who's already dead. Okay, is that clear? So what Rava is teaching us is that the only time that a person could be given the death penalty is when you killed someone who was alive. Is that clear? You had to have done damage to the person. And if you did not do damage to the person, because the person was already in the stage where they had to pay that, or they had to give that, or they had to die. So Rava continues, if that's the case, if the ruling of Edim Zomin, and it makes sense, because the whole idea of Edim Zomin is, we do to you what you tried to do to the guy. If the guy already had it done to him, you didn't do it to him. Or you weren't even trying to do it to him, because it was already done. On that, says Rava, if that's the case, that's also the halakha when it comes to the rendering of any sort of fine in the Torah. Two people come along and say, Bichad b'Shabbat on Sunday, Ganav v'tavach umachar. Now, you just need a little bit of background here. Let's say a person steals something. What's the obligation in the Torah? You have to return it. You have to pay it back. How about if a person steals something and he does not admit that he stole something? I bring witnesses, and the witnesses establish that the person stole something. Halakha is he has to pay, in certain cases, kefal, which means two. You have to pay for the object itself you stole, and then you have to pay again a fine of the equal value of that object. What happens if he stole a sheep or cattle? If he stole a sheep, and he either, it says ganav umachar, but ganav umachar, this is an and or, but really an or, okay? You don't have to slaughter it and sell it. You could slaughter it or sell it. So let's say the guy stole your sheep, made himself a barbecue. What's that delicious smell? That's Bessie, okay? Now, if in that scenario, I slaughtered your item, the halakha is, for a sheep I pay the price of the sheep plus 4 times, okay? And if I stole cattle, I pay for the cattle plus 5 times. Dalid v'hei. Why? Says the Gemara. Because when the person steals the sheep, they run away with the sheep, they carry the sheep. That's embarrassing. Everybody knows if you're running with a sheep in the street, it's because you hushowed it. Okay? However, if you're walking with cattle, you can't lift it, so you're just walking with a leash. And therefore, it never doesn't look like you stole. The embarrassment that he suffers when it comes to the stealing of the sheep, the Torah takes as a form of payment, and he does it, and we give him less of a knas.
Funny, even in a crime.
Even in a crime. And the Sifrei Musar point that out, that look at the power of embarrassment, even from a Rasha. Let him be embarrassed. He should be embarrassed. Well, he shouldn't be embarrassed, you stole the guy. No, Torah is that sensitive to his Geneva. Now, but that idea that you should pay 4 times or 5 times, is that monetary? Is that compensatory?
Compensatory.
Is that compensatory or is that monetary?
It feels compensatory.
It's or a fine. It's obviously a fine.
Oh yeah.
Why? Because compensation is what you lost. Right? Recompense means to make back, to give back what the person you took from him. That's 1 time, not 4 times, not 5 times. That's a knas. That's a fine that's levied. Okay? Now, in order to understand this Gemara, you need to remember one thing that we learned about every fine. We learned the law about every fine, that the only time you could have a fine is when the Bet Din, when it comes before Elokim, before the Bet Din,
You can't.
and the Bet Din levies the fine.
Can't do it.
Says the Gemara, only Aideh Bet Din, but not by yourself. So if I walk into court and I say I owe Bert $100, automatically I become responsible to pay Bert $100. How about if I walk to Bet Din and I say I'm responsible, I stole this item and then I slaughtered it? What's the halacha? Could you obligate me 4 and 5 based on my testimony? No, because you can only create the hayub, the responsibility of a knas, of a fine, when it was done to you, not when you do it to yourself. Okay, remember that? Mm-hmm. Last bit that you need to know. How about if I incriminate myself and then witnesses come? So is it that you can't obligate me on my own testimony, but if you have other testimony, then good? Or is it that once I give my testimony on myself, even if other witnesses come, you still can't? I got out of my jail, get out of jail free card already.
There's no get out of jail free card, so it can't be.
Halacha is, at least we're following over here in the Gemara, the opinion, and that's the halacha, that once you gave your own hoda'at baldin, there's no knas.
Wow.
Now, how does that make sense?
You're encouraging people.
Yeah.
You're encouraging people. The guy's just going to run in and admit that he stole the thing.
And he took ownership. It's like,
What's wrong?
Oh, see, most of us are thinking about this. We're like, what do you mean? How can the guy get off? Every guy who steals is going to run it. Yeah, but if he walked in, he now obligated himself on what he stole. So we're willing to sacrifice the knas, which the knas was there to ensure it gives us this. It's a fine for making us take you to court.
By the way, it's also embarrassing to confess.
Embarrassing to confess as well. So maybe it's similar to Dalet Va'eh. Now that we know that law, let's get into the Gemara. It says the Gemara, two people come along and say, on Sunday this guy stole, he slaughtered, he sold. Two people come along. And they say, what are you talking about? Sunday, where were we? Always reserve cut. I don't know why. So we were Emmanuel Item. By the way, how ironic if they were in reserve cut, eating the sheep that the guy. Okay, fine. And they said, it was on Monday. You got your liars. Sunday you with us. But Monday he did everything you just said. Mishalmin. The halacha is that they pay. The witnesses, the edim zomim, have to pay. So remember what happened. They tried to obligate the guy in a knas, okay? They have to pay, mishamim. And not only, even if they say on Erev Shabbat, ganav v'tabachu machar, if the second witnesses come in and they say it happened on Friday, the halacha is mishalmin. Now, let's look at both of those cases. Why? And understand why. If I said on Tuesday that this happened on Sunday, did the guy have an obligation to pay 4 and 5 times for the No. Sunday he was having a great day. Tuesday he was having a great morning, reading his newspaper, and now he has to pay 5 times the value of this sheep, either that he stole or didn't. Okay. Now the second witnesses come along and they say it happened on Monday. That means that when you said it happened on Sunday, right? When you said it happened on Sunday, he wasn't obligated. And by the way, today, Tuesday, that we're coming to Beit Din and making this statement, was he obligated to pay 4 times and 5 times? No. Why? Because at that point, he could have walked into Beit Din and said, I did this. Is this clear?
Mm-hmm. No, I missed the last part.
Since the guy always has the option of admitting until Edim come, that means that at any point, if you bore witness, Edim Zomamin, tried to get a guy to pay 4 and 5 times, you obligated him in this money. Because he could have walked in and said it himself and got himself off the hook.
You could be responsible for it.
So you could be responsible because you did it to him. In the time that they gave testimony, Gavra lav bar tashluminu. He was not someone that had to pay the money. Okay? Ba'u shenaim. If 2 people came along and said, however, the opposite case, so exactly synonymous with what Rava said before. They didn't say that he stole. They're not talking about the crime. They're not talking about what he did. They say on Sunday, ganav tavachu machar v'nigmar dino. On Sunday, the gavel came down. So what's Beit Din looking at? Not the crime. They're just looking at the gavel. The minute the gavel comes down, what happens?
Stashed.
The guy's obligated in the knas. Ubau shnaim ve'amru, two people come along and say, B'chad b'Shabbat imanu hayitem. They come along and say, nope, Sunday you were with us in reserve cut. Ela erev Shabbat. But on erev Shabbat, on Friday, ganavu machar. It actually happened on Friday. Or, says the Gemara, afilu, or even if they say, on B'chad b'Shabbat ganavu tabat machar, or even if they say that the resolution, the gavel came down. Okay, some people change the language over there to make it all on Monday. But Monday is when it happened. So remember, I said it happened on Sunday. What if it happened on Friday? Okay, obviously I have to pay. Obviously I don't have to pay because the guy already had the knas levied against him, even in the testimony. But even, says the Gemara, even in the scenario where I said Monday, okay, and I said Sunday, and when did it actually happen? On Monday. The Gemara Din happened on Monday. And Mishalmin, in any of these cases, right? In any of these cases, and Mishalmin. Why? In the time that you said your testimony, Gavra bar tashlumenu. The Bet Din had already ruled that this guy has to pay the knas. So if I would not have come to Bet Din, mi edim zolemin, what would have happened? The guy would have been obligated to pay the knas. Now that I came to Beit Din, what would the guy be obligated if I got away with this? The knas that he already owes. I did nothing. My intentions were bad, true. But I have to do something in order to be hayav as a dim
with a
zomi.
water gun. You could try and kill them with your intentions. If you're shooting them with a water gun, you can't kill them.
Correct. Well, yes, but it's even worse here. Because it's not just that my action doesn't have in it it's the guy himself that renders this
Status.
moot, because he's already moot. He already mooted.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, just the analogy. Okay, fine, I love it. Now, so what Rava just did was he explained the concept first by murder and then by a fine. Just to be clear, why would it be different? Why is Rava saying this only by a fine and not by compensatory damages? Because by compensatory damages, listen carefully, this is so important. Right? The owing of that money doesn't have to do with Bet Din. Bet Din is not what obligates you when you owe someone money on a monetary level. The minute you did it, you owe. Right? The minute you did it, you owe. When it comes to a fine, the fine is different. Why? Because until you institute it or until Bet Din institutes it, it doesn't exist. So if you're the reason for it with your testimony, then your edim zomin. If Bet Din is the reason for it without your testimony, then there's no edim zomin. On a monetary issue, it doesn't work that way because the person has this obligation to pay immediately from themselves. So why do I pay edim zomin if the guy owes the money anyway? If I say this guy stole money and he did steal money, why don't we say the same logic? The answer is because nobody knew about it. So even if the guy was obligated in it, he wasn't going to pay that money. You see the difference?
Because the court didn't rule.
So it's not in the obligation, but I still did that damage to him. Okay, let's continue. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yehuda. What?
So death penalty behaves like a knas.
Yeah, but not because it's a knas, but because it's not executed. It doesn't happen until that happens. Yeah, exactly. Rabbi Yehuda Amer, Rabbi Yehuda says, it's tatit hizu. Let's review the case of Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah taught us a very powerful line. We're turning the page to Hey Amud Bet. The Mishnah taught us a very powerful case. What happens when a set of witnesses come in and they say, this guy killed somebody? Comes a second set of edim and they say, you witnesses, you with us on Sunday. A second set of witnesses come and say they also saw it. What do the witnesses say? You were also with us on Sunday. Third set of witnesses, you were also with us on Sunday. Afilu mea, said Rabbi Yehuda. That's the same door. Says the Gemara, says the Mishnah, Kulam Yehragu. All of them, they're all part of the law of Edim Zomin. And we explained, actually, it's logical that they should be. Why is it logical that they should be? On a logical legal level. Why is it logical? Simply because, right? Super simple. Simply because we said this idea that in testimony, the two people bearing witness to something is the same as 100. So what if 100 witnesses walked in and said, Marco owes this money to somebody else? And then Edim Zomim come along and say, we had a wedding and all of you were at the wedding. What would be the halakha? All 100 would have Edim Zomim, except that we said that they would all split the payment. So right, they can't split the Malkut, but they all split the payment. So instantly, what would happen? Instantly. Right? All 100, one shot. What difference if Edim Zomem, 2, and then 2, and then 2, and then 2, until 100, or if they Edim Zomim 100 in one shot? Same thing. So logically, legally, same thing. However, comes Rabbi Yehuda says what everyone's thinking, and then he takes a left turn. This is some sort of plotting strategy. What's going on over here? This is Majnun. Are you crazy? Right? What's the odds that they were with them and they were with them and how popular are these people? You don't even go here. The only ones that get killed are the first set of witnesses that was omemd. So Rabbi Yehuda thinks what all of us are thinking. So you'd think, what does that mean? That we don't listen and we don't do Edim Zomim to anybody. Because these guys are plotters. They just decided that they're going to protect the Gambino family. And whoever comes against this kid that they say murdered the guy, we're going to say that they were with us. Because they just Edim Zomiming everybody. Okay? So Rabbi Yehuda says what all of us are thinking. But then he says, only the first cat is killed. That doesn't make sense. If they're plotters, and therefore you're not killing, 2 to 90, to 100, last 98, don't kill the first 2. And if you're killing the first 2, kill everybody else. It's either true or not true what they're saying. So what is Rabbi Yehuda teaching us? Says the Gemara, if this is their plotters, the first 2 should also not be killed. Gemara answers, Rabbi Avahu says, Shekadmu vehargu. What's the case? The case is that the Beit Din already killed the first set of witnesses.
So the chain breaks after that.
Now they go and they do the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh and the seventh. Right? We can't unkill the first group. But even though we killed the first group, we're not going to say that once we believe them for that kind of ensconces their testimony in the true column. We don't kill anybody else based on their testimony because now it's been revealed to be a plot. Okay? What happened, right? Now the Gemara asks, 1 second, you're telling me in a case that Beit Din made a mistake that you killed the first group? I don't need the Mishnah to tell me that we killed the first group if that's just what happened. There's no chidush. In other words, let's look at the first opinion. The first opinion says you kill everybody. Second opinion says you don't kill anybody. But Rav Yehuda says it in a strange way. What? If you only kill the first 2. Gemara says, when's the Mishnah talking? We already killed the first 2. I don't need Rav Yehuda to tell me, guys, if we made a mistake already, we made a mistake. What's the chidush in Rav Yehuda? Ela marava. Rava says, hachikam. This is what it means. Im ena ela kat achat nereget. Okay? If you only have one set, right, then the halacha is nereget. I'ikatfei en neheragin. Rava says that we are only ever willing to kill one group. The second they're now making a second group, what's it called? Edim Zomim. At this point, we're no longer going to kill any other Edim that come forward.
But if the first 2 weren't killed, then you don't kill any.
Correct. That's yes.
I feel like it's more unlikely that all of them check out because the cross-examination is so difficult that for every witness to come forward and to check out that they were with the other person seems like it's
far-fetched.
We're gonna come to that case. Again, remember how far-fetched this is. We always have to keep this in mind. What do we say about the Beit Din that kills once in 70 years? Is a bloody Beit Din. They're barely killing. Even Rabbi Akiva is in 70 years. The other opinion is 7 years. Still, it's so rare that any of these decisions ever lands, right? So, however rare it is, if it's times 10 or not times 10, it's still incredibly rare. So even on a regular murder case, it doesn't happen.
stretching out the
And
line.
by the way, it doesn't only include murder. It includes any killing for any reason.
That's why they go through.
Think about how rare that makes any punishment on that level. It's very, very, very rare. Okay? Someone once said to me, but it turns out then in the desert, right, then we would have had been a bloody bet din.
Oh wow.
Why? Because we have at least 2 times where bet din rules, right? Sorry, excellent. Mikoshesh Shabbat, the guy who chops wood on Shabbat. And who's the other one?
With the Aman, no? The Aman that there was.
No, not with the man. The other one was? Nope.
Maybe the children of.
Good point. No, the other one is the person who curses God's name using God's name, right? So the same concept we find, both of those. But the Bet Din ruled on 2, on a person who curses Hashem's name, and also on the other person, on the Mikoshesh Yetzim. However, the difference is that at least one of them they had to ask Hashem, in which case it wasn't the Bet Din that ruled on that case. They only had one, the case of the Mikoshesh Yetzim. However, it's not actually a bloody Bet Din even for the Mikoshesh Yetzim. Why? Because the Gemara tells us, according to Rabbi Akiva, that the Mikoshesh Etzim did it on purpose. He saw that the people were not treating Shabbat, they were treating it lightly. He figured out, they went and they warned him. He knew exactly what he was doing. He broke Shabbat on purpose, so it would be a lesson to everyone in the community. And he gave his life in order that everyone would be afraid to break Shabbat.
How was that viewed?
I completely agree with you. But that's what he did.
How was that viewed?
And it was the Shem. The Gemara brings a question about what a case is. Rabbi Akiva reveals to us who it is. Rabbi Tzlafchad, okay? That his name, that was Tzlafchad. That's what Rabbi Akiva says. And the Chachamim said to Rabbi Akiva, the Torah hid his identity, and you're going to go reveal it? Why'd you tell us who it is? Why'd you tell everyone?
Of Benot Tzlafchad tells us how they feel about it?
Exactly.
Wow.
They came to him and they said, our father did not die in the sin of Korach. He died in his own sin. And the Gemara actually brings from here a very interesting case, because we have this question that we have to deal with. When you have someone who does a mitzvah, right, a mitzvah with a bad intention, shelo lishma, and then flip side, what if a person does an avera l'shem shamayim? And one of the examples of avera l'shem shamayim is the case of tzlofchad. Okay, now, so in this case as well, it would not be a bloody bad din. Because the guy, his intention in all of this, he did it in a way, so he made sure to tick all the boxes. There was, any loophole that they were going to come up with to get him out of it, he made sure that he did those things, because his whole intention was to die. Again, not something, please don't try this at home. Exactly. He's a trained professional. But this is not something that anyone would ever ask of someone. And by the way, it's not clear that he's rewarded for that. He probably would be punished. For it. I mean, even if on some level there's some level of reward for what came out of it, but the idea itself is a person's never allowed either to kill themselves or to get themselves killed. Okay, let's continue. So Rava explains. And Harry, I misspoke because I was answering 2 questions at the same time. You asked. So Rava is telling us only in the case where they weren't killed yet. That's incorrect. Because remember, we're talking about an actual chronological unfolding of events. The people came in and they said, this guy's a murderer. Then the other Eidim Zomim came in and said that you guys were with us on Sunday. What happens right now? You kill the first set of witnesses, right? Because they tried to kill this guy. Says Rava, Hachi ka'amar, im ena elakat echat nereget. In a scenario where there's one set of witnesses, we kill them. And at that point, we killed them dead. They are dead.
Right.
But if there's more, en neheragim.
Well, what happens if they come in?
The minute now, a second group comes and they say, oh, they were also with us, then we don't kill the second group.
Right.
So you ask the question, what if they didn't kill the first group? Would they kill them? Yes, they would kill them. Because at that point, they only said testimony on one group. But if, as an example, they had not killed the first group, and now a second group came along, then we wouldn't kill the first group. But that's not this case. You understand?
No.
In other words,
I thought I had it better before.
very simple. Very simple. Very simple.
Ray, I need you.
Sunday morning. It all goes down in the Bet Din, okay? The guy comes in, they say this guy killed somebody. Other people come along, they say, you guys were with us. You could not have seen that happened, when you said it did. What happens to the first set of Edim? We kill them, okay? Now, all of a sudden, another group of Edim come in. After they're already dead. Another group come in, and they say, you guys were with us. You could not have seen that, right? We saw him kill the same time. They say, you were with us. You could not have seen that. What would normally happen if they were the first group? We would kill them. Says that Amarava, Yehuda says, they reveal themselves to be plotters when they Edim Zolmin, a second set of Edim. Okay? But it's not revealed until that point.
Right, so the first group dead. Second group.
Right, what I'm
dead.
explaining is that the first group is dead because of the chronology.
Yes.
But if, as an example, they'd have shown themselves to be plotters, if they would show themselves,
before they were killed.
not because of that. If they showed themselves to be plotters before you killed the first people, then we wouldn't kill either. Because it would be revealed that they were plotters. Exactly.
Yeah, okay,
But that's not the case of Rabbi Yehuda though. Because Rabbi Yehuda says, if you look at Rabbi Yehuda, look at the words in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says,
You said you killed them all 100, no?
no, that's the Tanakama. Ve'eno neherag ela katarishona bevad. The only ones that get killed is the first group as well.
Even in the case where it's revealed that they're plotting, in that case? Is that
No, that's what I'm trying to explain. According to what you're saying, according to what you're saying, what does Rabbi Yehuda mean when he says "Eno neherag ela katarishona bevad"? That only the first group is killed. What does he mean to say? He means only the first group is killed when they were killed.
Okay.
Okay? Once they weren't killed, so if they weren't killed, and then the second group came in, immediately we understand that they're plotters.
And no one is.
And then no one is killed. Okay? That's a Rava is expressing. Okay. So v'neherag means when it happened that way. Okay? Let's continue. The Gemara says as follows. Ha bilvad kamar. I don't understand. How could you say that's what Rabbi Yehuda means? He says ve'eno neherag ela kat rishona bilvad. It's like only then. So what is that trying to say? It must be talking about a scenario where you're killing the first group when there was already another group that was also in the same boat. In other words, if in my case, we're at 10 o'clock, we're killing the first group. 11 o'clock, the second group comes in, and now that case becomes relevant. I wouldn't say you only killed the first group. I'd say you killed the first group. Only kill the first group sounds like there's two groups on the chopping block, and we only kill one of them. So the Gemara is challenging Rabbi Yehuda's opinion. The Gemara answers, in the end, Kasha, you're right. It's a good question. Now, when the Gemara says Kasha, what does that mean?
There's conflicting things.
So let's see Rashi inside. Okay? Rashi says, Mechila, 1 second. I thought I saw it in Rashi over here. I must have seen it somewhere else. Okay. So the Gemara says Kasha. Now, if you remember, we've had many times where the Gemara is going to knock out an opinion, and the Gemara uses a lot of different languages. There's one language that they say, Ela. Ela always means a reversal of opinion. Where did we just see a reversal of opinion? Just now. Ela amarava. What does Ela tell you? Ela tells you that what we just said before, we're not going with that. We're going with something else. The Gemara does not say Ela over here. The Gemara says Kasha. You're right. It's a challenge, the word bilvad. But this is how we see the Mishnah.
It's not perfect, but this is what it is.
Right. Where else do we find an example of this? Where we had the back and forth questions, and we saw that in the Tzad HaShaveh, remember that? When we're learning from two things, and the Gemara says, what do you mean? But you could learn from both of those extenuating circumstances that it's different, because both of these cases have extenuating circumstances.
With Shemaim?
That was in the case where we were learning from the Tzad HaShaveh, from the common denominator of Motzi Shemra, right? Remember? We're learning Motzi Shemra, those two cases of the Tzad HaShaveh. The Gemara says in both of those cases, one of them was Lokeo Mishalem, right? One of them pays and gets Malkut. So you see it's a strict thing, right? Remember in Ula? And the other opinion said, and the other side of the Tzad HaShaveh, that was, what's it called? Was Edim Zomimim. So we learned from Edim Zomimim and Motzi Shemra. The Gemara says, how could you learn from both of those to our case? How could you do that? Edim Zomimim is strict. It's extenuating because you don't need warning. Motzi Shemra is strict because you could be Lokeo Mishalem. You could both get whipped and pay the money. You could get two punishments for one crime. So therefore, we should learn that both of these cases have extenuating circumstances, right? And what did the Gemara say? Rabbi Yehuda tzar chamur lo parich. Good question. I don't hold to your question. What do you mean you don't hold to my question?
Thanks, but no thanks.
Exactly. Yeah. Moving on. Right. So also the Gemara over here is saying kasha. Now I was left with one question on this. Can I explain what the? I don't know why the Gemara likes and is willing to go with Rava with its question on Rava, which the question is the word bilvad sounds like we only kill one out of two, but that's not the case. Because if there was two people that they plotted, that we would consider them plotters, right? We would already invalidate their entire testimony, right? So we're left with the question of bilvad. Why did the Gemara not go with what we said before? Remember I said before that once you kill the first group, right? You don't kill any more. Why you only kill the first group? Because, what would be the havamina? What's the chidush in that approach in the Mishnah? Obviously, you made a mistake. It's true. But there are times where we have this idea that once we accepted a testimony as true and acted upon it, so it's already like the testimony is accepted in Beit Din. It's set. So if we set that these people were telling the truth, that they were in a certain place and they saw these people, one might think that because that's already set by the Nigmar Beit Din, right? There was Nigmar Dino. So it would also be that these people are not established as plotters. They're established as people who've told the truth. So therefore, could be that I would say that you would carry on with the second group as well. Why? Because Beit Din already stamped them as people who are truth tellers, yani. How do we do that? By the first death. I'm not sure why the Gemara doesn't like that idea. And again, we're not going to follow that halakha because in the end, right, just because you said that they're true doesn't mean they're going to be true, right? But the chidush of Bilvad was that, look, only one group of people died. We now don't stick with our mistakes. Beit Din is able, even after the Din was ruled, to, with regard to another case, change its perspective. By the way, can I tell you why this would be a beautiful chidush? Let's say there's a case of Nigmar Adin, where the din is closed. They already levied the punishment. Once the case is closed, they carry out the action. Okay? The case is closed. You can't enter into that case again. You can't enter in new testimony, potentially. Right? Again, depending on the scenario. But the case is closed. One might have thought that once the case is closed, not just that we establish for these people, but there's no new testimony that could change the status of these people. Now listen carefully. If that's the case, so now, when that case is closed, that's untouchable. So we've already established that those Edim Zomin, they were telling the truth about that first group. Now that you come in with a second court case on the second group of people, right? I might think that now we're looking at this as the first witnesses that they're testifying on. It's a brand new case. Maybe that would have been the chidush. The Gemara, for some reason, did not want to go with this. It's not the case. No, the chidush would be that's not the case, and therefore, even afterwards, I'll look back and say there was another group here earlier that they did this to. So therefore, we're now going to take this one, which is case closed, put away, and this new case, use them together to establish that they plotted, that they're plotters. Okay, you see the chidush. So I might have thought that Kamash Malan. That's not the case. The Gemara did not like this chidush. The Gemara would rather go with Rava and stick with Rava, even though we have the question of the word bilvad, which does not seem to be saying what we think it's saying.
Does the language of the case make you think that it is part of the same case and not a new case?
What do you mean?
The way the Gemara states the case.
The Mishnah, you mean?
The Mishnah.
Yeah.
does the language that it uses make us think that it can't be a new case?
Well, let's look at the Mishnah. Let's do that. The Mishnah says, right, Harei zomimim v'ne'eragin al piyem. Ba'u acher, so they are zomim and they are killed on the testimony. Ba'u acherim, come along, others, and say ve'zimum, and they make them edim zomim. And another group says that we saw them kill, and they ve'zimum. Va'afilu mea, even if there's 100, kulam yeheragu, everyone gets killed. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, they're a group of plotters. Ve'eno neherag ela kat harishona bilvad. The only ones that get killed is the first group alone. Okay? Now, the first people that they zomimimed, okay? So, but they're plotters, and the only one that gets killed is the first one. According to this, just let's try and understand the language of the Mishnah. I think that's what you're after. Yep. The language seems to be saying that the first group, right, in the order, the first group's already dead. Right? Look at it. V'neheragin al piyem.
So then it's the case is
Ba'u acherim. It makes it sound in the Mishnah that they killed him already and then others came. Okay? So the language of the Mishnah makes it sound like that's already happened. Right? So I think that's really what the Gemara is asking on Rava. That doesn't fit with what you're saying. But if the Gemara would go like what I said before, that even the first group, that we happen to be talking about this case, but in a case where it didn't happen, then they wouldn't kill either, okay? That could fit with the Mishnah. So it's not, but for some reason the Gemara would rather not do that. The Gemara continues, okay? This is the last piece that we'll do today. There was a certain woman, the Atai Sadi v'ishtakur. We had a case where there was a woman, and she brought in these witnesses. The Atai, that's what it means. Not the Atu, that they came, but the Atai, that she brought witnesses, v'ishtakur, and we were able to undo these witnesses because we found out that they were lying. The Beit Din cross-examined them. Aiti Sadi, she again brought witnesses again at the same time, v'ishtakur, and again they were able to prove that they were not telling the truth. Azla Aiti Sadi achrini delo ishtakur. Now she got a third set of witnesses, and we could not find a way to discredit them. We could not find a hole in their testimony. Amar Resh Lakish says, Huchzekazu, this is fascinating, yeah? Huchzekazu, we understand that this person has a chazakah, that she's a false witness bringer.
She has a pattern. She's basically
Pattern. I don't care. You know what this third set of witnesses is? It's third set of witnesses that did their homework.
Yeah,
They're lying.
They practiced.
You got them once, you got them twice. They took notes, and now they came back and you couldn't knock them out. But this woman is huchzak. Now that is a very strange word.
Holded?
No, what does the word huchzak mean? We said already a few times.
It's like a pattern. Like
Chazaka.
Yeah.
How many times do you have to do something for chazaka?
Oh, 3. Oh, you're right. You only did it twice.
How could Resh Lakish say huchzakazu?
Witnesses is probably good enough.
It's happened 2 times only. What?
Well, it happened 3 times.
The third time was kosher.
Well, but it smelled kosher.
It doesn't matter.
They learned from the other 2.
I get it, but it's not a chazaka.
It's not a chazaka.
You get me?
Yeah.
Every time chazaka, to set a pattern, you need 3. Actually, as a machloket, one opinion says you need 4. In Masechet Baba Batra. We talk about how many years you need. You need 3 years, you need 4 years, right? But is it 3 times? By the way, it's also a fascinating scenario. You have a woman who marries, and she and her first husband dies, and then her second husband dies, and then her third husband dies. She's called a katlanit. She's huchzak as a killer. Not that she killed them, but that marrying this woman causes you to die.
I thought that was only with 2 husbands.
Huchzik katlanit. This is the same question. How many do you need?
I thought it was
I think you need 2.
How many do you need? This is the same question, right?
This is big.
Same question. Tamar,
What's
2.
it called again, Rabbi? What's the name for it?
Katlanit.
Katlani, yeah.
Yeah, she's a killer. She's
By the
like
way,
a killer.
It's common. I've
Yeah.
seen it.
Now,
No. In other words, we've seen it. It's
Bert, so long as you don't say I'm living it, I'm happy.
I'm not living it, but I've seen it.
Slang in Hebrew for killer. Like in modern Hebrew,
Yeah.
it's katlani, it's
Yeah,
killer.
and you know what's even funnier as well? Which is amazing to me is that this is not only in that case either. So you're seeing that this idea of chazakah, it's broad. It's not only money. You see it also with katlanit. You know where else we have an example of this? Has v'shalom, has v'shalom, has v'shalom.
Lo alenu.
Brit milah. You have a person who brings their son, they do Brit milah, the kid dies. They do a second kid Brit milah, the kid dies.
You have to rely for the third one.
There's a huchzak, that there's a genetic thing here, and they're not allowed to do Brit milah on the last kid. Yeah, for the same reason. So there's this idea that a pattern is set normally, but sorry?
Maybe it's changed them all out.
Change them all. I'd imagine after the first one they already tried that, you know?
Yeah, I don't think you bring
Yeah,
the same
you're not really the
guy.
same guy, exactly. It's, what's it called? So, but again, you find this idea that's wide ranging. So, for whatever reason, Rish Lakish says, Huchzak over here is only by 2. And we're going to see. Maybe he's borrowing a term. Well, I want to see. We're going to see soon. Amalei Rabbi Elazar says, Im hi huchzika, if she is through this considered huchzak, Kol Yisrael mi huchziku. 1 second. The chazakah is on who? On the girl, on the wife, on this woman. The chazakah is not on Israel that they're liars. So who'd she bring? She brought a third set of witnesses. The witnesses are just regular Jews. Do you have a chazakah that Jews are liars? No. So in order to, it's not about her. It's about the witnesses. So how could her chazakah create witnesses that are liars? Doesn't make a difference. But in order to establish them as liars, that's up to them, not up to her. So Rabbi Elazar says that the chazakah can't land because it's not up to her. It's up to them. Zimnin, Haviyatvi. Okay, so this opinion that we brought is the opinion of Resh Lakish, and Rabbi Elazar disagrees with him. Zimnin, says the Gemara, one time they were sitting in front of Rabbi Yochanan. Exactly such a case came. Resh Lakish said his piece. This woman, she's already brought 2 witnesses that we've discredited. 2 sets. Rabbi Yochanan says, just because she has a chazakah, that she likes to bring false witnesses, means that the Jews that just walked in, that are kosher Jews, you're going to set them up, consider them liars? He saw Rish Lakish looked at Rabbi Elazar at that point with he was angry, okay? Amaleh, he was upset. Amaleh, shamat mili mi bar nafcha velo amret li mishmeh. You heard the words from Bar Nafcha. Bar Nafcha was the nickname of Rabbi Yochanan, okay? You heard words from our rabbi, yeah? And you didn't tell it to me in his name? All this time I've been arguing with you. I thought huchzak. You said this opinion, you can't be machzik the witnesses because it's up to them, not up to her. You've been saying it as if it's your opinion, and I've been arguing with you. Now comes the case in front of our rabbi, Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan rules like you. It says the same words that you said.
Why don't you say
You learned it from him. I wish you would have said it in his name. I wouldn't have argued.
He couldn't have argued.
Right?
Yeah.
He could have argued.
Same timeline?
Same timeline. Fascinating, by the way.
Working on it.
Fascinating halakha. Fascinating halakha. We'll come back to that in just 1 second. Okay? Now, we're going to continue, actually, you know what? We'll continue you know what? Let's just finish the Mishnah. It's very close. Maybe Rish Lakish holds like the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan Dama Kirabanan. Wow. Spicy. What's going on? Says the Gemara, maybe this machloket between the Amoraim is really the source of the machloket between the Mishnah. That what? How would this translate? The Chachamim say, just because these people are saying that these people are Edim Zomimim, right? We're going to now testify that their testimony is suspect because it happened once, twice, 3, it happened again and again and again. So they're huchzak as liars, right? That would be the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, holds like Rish Lakish. And what does the first opinion say? No, afilu mea, because they don't lose the status of cheskat kashrut that every Jew has. Yochanan Dama Kirabanan. Rish Lakish says no. Don't pigeonhole me according to Rabbi Yehuda, the single opinion against the Rabbanan, where the halacha is not going to be like me, right? Ad kan lo ka'amri Rabbanan hatam. When did the rabbis say their opinion? Deleka de kamahader, because no one is bringing this person to say this testimony, right? I said that there's a chazakah on the bringer of false witnesses. Here, there's no bringer. It's just them themselves. So therefore, in this case, right? In my case, there's a woman that we could say she's huchzak to bring false witnesses. But here, where there's no one to say that they're bringing false witnesses, the Chachamim, that's why they say the halakha. The rabbis would agree to me when there was a false witness bringer. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, don't pigeonhole me with the Rabbanan and have me win because of a majority. I would say that everyone holds like me, including Rabbi Yehuda. When did Rabbi Yehuda say his law? Hatam over there. One second. You with everybody? Another witnesses, we're with them. Another witnesses, they're with us. Another witnesses, they're with us. The whole world was with you. Where were you? Sunday morning Gemara class, everyone's there. See, I could use it both ways. I'm exactly like the Gemara. Don't just limit me to that. But over here, Hani, these yadu b'sa'aduta, v'hani lo yadi b'sa'aduta. In this case, right? We have this example of Yadu Sa'aduta. They knew the example. Says Rashi. Look at Rashi right before the Mishnah. Hani Yadi B'Sa'aduta Elu Acharonim Yadi Be'eduta Shelzu. Right? These, the last ones, right? They know about the previous testimonies. Right? So therefore, since the last witnesses, they know what's going on. They know exactly what they're walking into. So therefore, that's different in our case. In the case of the Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan said that. That's not likely. Because how could it be? But in this second case, what is unlikely in that there's other witnesses that saw it? You know, it's not, they saw a testimony, they knew it would work. So therefore, they're willing to come forward. And therefore, the two cases are not the same. Baruch Hanei Le'olam, Amen ve'amen. Well, I just want to end with this. Stanley said, he's not allowed to argue. It's his rabbi. So I said he is allowed to argue. Why? Because they're the same timeline. Tanaim could argue on each other. The action is a very famous question halakha. Is a son allowed to argue with his father in general? No.
In general, no.
Asur.
L'shem Shamayim, yes.
You're not l'shem shamayim. No, not l'shem shamayim. You're not allowed to argue with your father. Asur. You can't contradict him. Not only that, according to some opinions in halakha, you can't even agree with him.
But there's a whole case, Rabbi. That
Wait. Let it land. Why can't you agree with him? You're saying the same thing. Excellent. You're saying, you know what? He's right, actually. He's right. Like, I'm the arbiter of whether my father's right. So one opinion in the Rishonim says, brought down halakha, that I'm not even allowed to agree with you in that manner. I'm allowed to agree with you, but I can't state my agreement as if my opinion is bolstering yours, okay? Listen to this carefully. However, so rabbi and father are the same with regards to this. However, I'm allowed to argue on my father, and I'm allowed to argue on my rabbi halakha. Who says this? Tshuvot Arosh writes this. Why he says? And he writes so beautifully language. Ki ha-Torah, Torat emet hu. For Torah is a Torah of truth. Ve'en machanifin. And we don't flatter l'shum adam to anyone. And the Vilna Gaon brings a proof that this is the case, because we have cases in the Gemara where Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is arguing on Rabbi Gamliel. Who's it? It's his father. We have a case over here. So there wasn't this direct, it's not his son, it's his grandson. So it's not the same. No, but you wouldn't have the same, for his rabbi, yes. Not for a grandson doesn't have the same chiyuvim to his grandfather as a son has to their father.
The same chiyuvim also to your father-in-law.
Not the same level.
Not the same level.
We learn from it. Like grandfather also, we learn from it. But it's not the same level of disrespect. But so even if you were allowed for your grandfather, you still might not be allowed for your father. But we learn from here. Not only you're allowed to contradict your father, you're allowed to contradict your rabbi also when it comes to Torah, where you know that that's the emet. A lot of times I tell people, but just make sure that you're right, because a lot of times they argue with the rabbi because no, rabbi, it's not
Rabbi, there's also a case in the Gemara that they bring down where basically your father could tell you violate Shabbat.
Oh yes, that's a Gemara Sanhedrin.